Welcome, thank
What
you.
we're doing this evening is we are interviewing two candidates to fill the open seat of the controller. We already had the coin toss, and it was won by Mr. Glazier, correct? So he chose to go second, so Ms. Aguiar, am I saying it right, or Linda? Aguiar, okay, I got it. You are first, let's say. So you want to come up to where the three chairs are, right there. Probably best you sit there. We'll make sure those microphones are on. And what we will do is, we have a series of questions, and you already received the questions, obviously.
Yes.
And we have a time limit on each question. So with that being said, make sure the mic's on.
1, 2, yes.
Perfect. Now, sometimes you have to pull a little closer. These seem to work real well. Sometimes they're not as, the volume isn't as much. Mr. Hanlon, we're going to time each question. And obviously, if the little buzzer goes off and you're in the middle of a sentence or a comment, continue to finish that sentence or comment. Welcome. Thank you for applying for the controller's vacancy. At this point, the first question would be, introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in filling the vacancy in the City Controller's office. And you have 4 minutes.
Yes, I want to start by thanking City Council members for the opportunity to interview for this position. And I also want to thank Mike Hanlon and Tawana Whitehead for their assistance throughout this process. And thank you as well to the people of Allentown for their presence here tonight. My name is Erlinda Aguiar, and I have been an Allentown resident since 1992. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and an MBA, both from Meridian College. I have over 20 years of experience in banking operations, commercial credit analysis, financial analysis, management, community and economic development, public relations, and marketing and communications, in addition to an extensive history of volunteer service to the Lehigh Valley and the state of Pennsylvania. I also held a public office for 5 years as a part of the board of directors of the Allentown School Board. I am interested in serving as controller for the city of Allentown because I can use my education and experience for the benefit of this city. I have been committed to making Allentown a better place and to improve the quality of life of its residents through my volunteer service with organizations such as the Allentown YMCA and YWCA, the Muhlenberg College Board of Associates, the Allentown Human Relations Commission, the Allentown Economic Development Corporation, the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, the Latino Alliance of the Lehigh Valley, Casa Guadalupe, the Adult Literacy Center, the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Environmental Justice Advisory Board, and others. We all have been shaken by recent events in our city government. Somehow, doing business behind closed doors seems to be all too common in recent years. It is part of business as usual. But that is one of the reasons why dealings and decision-making begin even before a public announcement has been made. We can tell ourselves we save time by discussing public business behind closed doors, perhaps even allowing trusted allies to influence our decisions or our vote. But if this is business as usual, I will tell you this: I don't do business this way. That is why I did not contact any of the city council members or influential city staff by phone, email, or any other way of communication to ask for your support or endorsement or to try to influence your vote in my favor. I wanted the interview process to be fair and open, as it should be, at least for my part. Doing business this way helps me sleep peacefully at night. I hope that once again I can work on behalf of this city and help rebuild the confidence in the Controller's office by bringing transparency to the operations and reporting of such office. The Controller's office must regain the trust and confidence of the staff, City Council, and all constituents. This is my promise to you all, if given the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, which you'll have 10 minutes. We have to wait till it goes down. Set it to 10. Thank you. Next question is, Arminda, using the Home Rule Charter, Administrative Code, Controller's Budget, and job descriptions related to the Controller's Office as a basis for your answer, Tell us how you will manage and prioritize the work of the office. What will be the product of the office under your direction? Be as specific as you can.
Yes. Well, the city's administrative code and the city's charter, in addition to the job descriptions, basically preordain the activities of the office of the controller. The controller's job, as well as the internal audit manager's job, have very specific tasks. These tasks need to be completed, and they have their own deadlines and timelines for completion. Some of these are the financial oversight of city finances, independent of the executive and legislative branches, in the review of all expenditures of all city departments, the mayor, city council, city boards, commissions, agencies, and authorities, for whom the city provides financial guarantees. It's also the review of the annual budget before approval by city council, and also to make recommendations to the mayor and city council for your consideration. And that is basically something that's deemed by the controller's office to present to you. And also to be present or represented at all city council meetings. And in addition to take part of all the audits conducted by independent auditors. I have experience in doing this when I worked in banking as a financial analyst and also as a commercial credit analyst. I have the opportunity to do this type of work, to review contracts, to review agreements with the different organizations that the bank was providing financing for, and also vendors as well, to review contracts and agreements with vendors. And so I have the background needed to conduct and hit the ground running. Now, that being said, I think that the job descriptions have very specific tasks, but also in addition to budget, I just want to mention that is a single budget, which the majority of the budget in itself is the salary expense. So based on the information and the public documents issued by other city staff, external auditors, and other internal documents, I had a chance to study. Then there was no indication of mismanagement by the office of the controller. Everybody said that things were great and things were being done properly. And I checked the management letter from the financial statements as well. And again, it seems that the office of the city controller, along with the finance department, etc., work well together, and they have been doing things in a timely and appropriate manner. But I think that what is different is how the person in charge of the controller's office, or the controller himself or herself, the difference is how they communicate to make sure that if you see any concerns, not only go to one person, not only go to the mayor, or not only go to one city council member, but to make sure that that's where you add the transparency. That's what you can bring to the table as a person doing this job. So you can build the trust and you can build a rapport, not with one person, not with only the president of council, but with everyone, and also to make sure that all these documents and contracts are available to the public, and make sure that they are available at any given time.
Thank you. Next question. The controller, I only want to set it for 4 minutes. Thank you. The controller is an elected position. Why would voters choose you to fill the position? What would be your message to the electorate to fill the position?
Yes, I am a longtime resident of Allentown. I am someone dedicated to serve and to help make this city better. Because this is my community, and I believe everyone has something to contribute towards making Allentown great. Everyone can contribute something positive. We just need individually to make the decision how to contribute, when to contribute, and where to contribute. There is a lot of work to be done to keep our city going, especially in times when all eyes are on us. Even NPR has taken interest in Allentown. And I wish that they were reporting on the great things that happen here, but instead they focused on the FBI investigation. I want to help change this. Everything starts with one person and their individual contribution. My work experience and education make me a qualified person to do this job. But in addition to this, I always try to do my job and to treat people in the same manner I would like to be treated. So therefore, my door would be open, I would listen, and I would also make sure that I would take care of all the duties assigned to the Office of the Controller the best way possible and according to the law at all times.
Thank you. Mr. Hanlon, 5 minutes, please. The Controller is an independently elected political office. Convince council of your independence. How can council and the public be assured that you will deal with issues in an independent, transparent, and public manner? Give us some examples to illustrate your points.
Yes, I have never accepted any contributions from political organizations or any payment as part of any political activity. When I ran for the Allentown School Board, I made the decision not to run a conventional campaign. By that I mean I did not form a committee or friends of Erlinda Aguiar for Allentown School Board because what I wanted to do was to be grassroots and to reach out to the community. I went door to door. I attended the meetings of the block watches and other constituent groups, and I met with individuals who wanted to know why I was running for the school board. And I used emails and any means necessary that I had available to me at no cost, so that I did not need to run a campaign the usual way when you form a committee. And I did this in order to preserve my integrity. I did not want to feel obligated to anyone or owe anyone because they had given me a few $100s to run a campaign. Given the opportunity to run for City Controller in 2017, I will run the same type of campaign. Grassroots, door to door, and meeting people so they can know me and I know them. My door is always open, and I'm willing to listen to suggestions. I just make it clear to everyone that I have a duty to fulfill, and I must do my job according to the responsibilities of the office I occupy. This certainly includes transparency and fairness, to provide the best customer service I can to all constituents. In addition, I have donated countless hours to so many community organizations, and I continue to this day to do so, because I care about the community and I want our city and all its residents to succeed. This is my commitment and promise to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda, the last question, a formal question would be, and this is the last time you pitch yourself for this position. What makes you uniquely qualified to fill this position? Tell us why we should select you for this position. And you have 2 minutes.
Yes, well, I have the experience through my job and through volunteer service. I have the education. I have a bachelor's in economics and a master's in business administration. I have never accepted campaign contributions of any kind in order to maintain my integrity. And this is exactly what I would bring to the Office of the Controller. Integrity, transparency, and the ability to do a job and work in partnership, independently, but in partnership, because the office does not exist in isolation. It must cooperate and receive and give information from other departments, and also cooperate with the mayor's office and city council. But the integrity part is very important, to make sure you keep confidentiality, and you also to make sure that when the information is public, you disseminate the information to the public in a timely manner. And again, like I said, and I reiterate, I do not like, and I'm not the type of person to do any kind of killings behind closed doors. So this is what I would bring to the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I will open questions from my colleagues. I ask my colleagues, though, whatever question you ask candidate one, you ask the same question to candidate two, so the playing field is level. Okay. Don't change your question. If you have a question, ask candidate one, ask candidate two the same question. So I'll open it up to my colleagues if you have any questions of Erlinda. Anyone? Go ahead, Mr. Greedy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
And we have
President.
5 minutes for this segment.
Okay. Quick question, Ms. Aguirre. You said that that the controller's office was good and he was accountable and he was, that there wasn't any problem with it. I felt that there is a problem with it, and that's why the controller is not here. So can you further explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, what I meant is that I had the opportunity to review documents issued by the external auditors, other documents issued internally through the city that have been made public. And that's what I meant, that looking at the job description, looking at the charter, looking at the administrative code, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the office of the city controller that needs to be modified. The job description basically is just giving a list of all the things that is expected of the controller's office. And the internal auditor job description as well is listing all the responsibilities of such position. And so that's what I meant, that I did not, based on my review of all those documents, see anything wrong. But obviously there was something wrong because there was things happening behind closed doors. And so I just wanted to clarify that that's where I was coming from, based on all the documents. So it is very important, not only the job description, but also the way in which the person would do the job, because that is what adds the transparency and the accountability and the trust element.
Okay. Any other questions from my colleagues? Mr. Hendricks, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Aguiar, my question for you is, in your previous positions, have you ever conducted any audits of any type?
Yes, as a matter of fact, when I was working for the bank Summit Financial, I had the opportunity to do audits on all the files that were assigned to us randomly, and we would need to go through the financial statements, ratio reviews, make sure that everything was in compliance with that loan agreement that the customer and the bank had signed. I also had the opportunity to work with large participation relationships with the bank of 25 million and 50 million relationships in which our bank participated with that amount. And there were other banks, and sometimes it would be 250 million transaction in total. So I had to review files, do compliance audits, make sure that all the covenants, financial covenants, and all the requirements for that relationship were being met. And if there was any kind of discrepancy, to communicate that to the officer in charge so that we would be able to meet with the client and move forward and bring them into compliance.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from my colleagues? Going once? Mr. Mota, go ahead.
Yes. Mrs. Aguiar, this is a quick question that I have for you. If you're given the opportunity to become the next city controller, what will be the first thing you will do or change?
Well, first of all, I did not have access to all of the information. There is a wealth of information of financial statements and so many different documents that belong in that office. I think it's very important to make sure that all the contracts that are in existence, that all the copies of the contracts are available. So that I believe should be a priority, to make sure that every contract that is in existence is available and in a file in the controller's office. And then start a review as well to make sure there is compliance and there are no discrepancies with all the existing contracts, and make sure that you take that accountability and that compliance moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Down to 31 seconds. So one more question. I think we're kind of close the door. We're used to 5 minutes. All right, Linda, thank you very much. Sit in the audience. We're going to be interviewing Mr. Glacier next, and then we'll have public comments, and then we're going to vote tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
For this opportunity.
Good seeing you again. Mr. Glacier? Mr. Glazier.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hi, Mr. Glazier. Obviously, the same list of questions. The first one being, introduce yourself and tell us why you were interested in filling the vacancy in the City Controller's office. And you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Jeff Glazier, and I appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed for the Controller's position. I've served the City of Allentown and its citizens for over 14 years in a variety of capacities. I served on the school board for 12, I served on the public library board, I've served on city council, and also served on the aggregate pension board. I'm a native of Allentown, married, and I've raised 3 sons, all of whom graduated from Allen High School and went on to college well prepared. And in addition to being a graduate of Allen High School, I'm a graduate of Penn State. I'm a Bachelor of Arts in Labor Studies with a minor in economics, and I also have a master's in public administration. I've had a variety of work experience. The one that's most apt for this position is I worked for the auditor. I worked for the treasurer of the state of Pennsylvania as an auditor for 2 years, and what I did was audit some of the large data processing, printing, and telecom contracts. One day, for fun, I had the opportunity to audit some of the expenses from the House and Senate. They never let me do that again. My goal in serving the public has always been to see that services are provided transparently and efficiently and at a price that we can all afford. Being controller and using audits to provide unbiased assessments of how effective and efficient our city spending is a way to realize that goal for the benefit of the city and its stakeholders.
Thank you, sir. Next question, you will have 10 minutes. Mr. Hanlon will set the timer. Thank you, sir. Using the Home Rule Charter, Administrative Code, Controller's Budget, and job descriptions related to the Controller's Office as a basis for your answer, tell us how you will manage and prioritize the work of the office. What will be the product of the office under your direction? Be specific as you can.
Thank you. According to the charter, the powers, all the powers, are to be interpreted liberally, and I would certainly take as wide a view as possible as to what the controller can do. Ideally, controller should provide oversight, insight, and foresight to the public body. Oversight addresses what we're supposed to be doing and detects and hopefully deters corruption. Insight aids decision-making by providing independent assessment of programs and policies. Foresight looks to identify trends and uncover future challenges. Now, the controller is probably the smallest department in all of the city, 2 employees. The first thing I do is assess how resources are being used currently to determine what, if any, other kinds of audits and oversight can be carried out given the office's limited time and budget. However, certain top priority tasks, like the monthly accounts payable checks, bank reconciliations, and reviews, must be done on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, and they will continue to be done in a timely fashion. Given the current state, attention to the contract process will get a high priority. Looking forward, I would expect to be much more involved in the budget process and will be happy to provide feedback directly to council. And finally, though not in the charter, the controller is secretary to the aggregate pension board. And given the amount of resources the city and its citizens have put in to stabilize this board, this is a major responsibility. And I've been on the aggregate pension board for 3 years, and I'm certainly up to speed on the importance and requirements of this position.
Thank you, sir. Next question, Mr. Hanlon, 4 minutes. Thank you, sir. The controller is an elected position. Why would voters choose you to fill the position? What would be your message to the electorate to fill the position?
Thank you. I think at this point it's premature to address an election well over a year away. However, I do have priorities that I believe will serve the public well. Transparency is a cornerstone of good governance, and I would increase that by putting audits and contracts on the web. Right now, they're listed on the web, but if you want them, you have to ask for them. I think we have that backwards. I think they need to be there for people to download at their convenience. Additionally, perhaps the controller's office could be a clearinghouse for public financial information, like our monthly financial reports and lists of transfers that would be easily accessible to the public. And additionally, it's certainly been a topic of conversation that information from the Aggregate Pension Board should also be placed online, and I would certainly support doing that and make every effort to have that happen. Another thing that I would like to do is perhaps have the office assessed by an outside group, a peer review, if you will, and that could benchmark the controller's office against a standard and show us what we do well and where we need to improve. Additionally, I'd some increase in oversight of contracts. And finally, I would like to develop the increased capacity to provide insight and foresight to both City Council and the administration as we assess programs to provide guidance.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hanlon, 5 minutes for this question. Thank you. The controller is an independently elected political office. Convince council of your independence. How can council and the public be assured that you will deal with issues in an independent, transparent, and public manner? Give us some examples to illustrate your points.
Thank you. Over 14 years of service, my guide has always been to do what's best for the citizens of Allentown. Now, one may not have always agreed with the positions I've taken or the votes that I've cast, but I assure you, they were mine alone, and they will always continue to be. In terms of a challenging decision where one had to assert one's independence, many times when we were on the school board, to get approval for the Keystone Opportunity Zone, those approvals had to go before the 3 boards: City Council, the school board, and the county. And there were times when the school board, perhaps at my behest, did not always approve some of these cause designations, and there was certainly pressure to make sure that there were yes votes from the school board, but I can think of probably 2 instances where I wouldn't support those designations, and we did not.
Thank you, sir. Again, your last pitch, 2 minutes. What makes you uniquely qualified to fill this position? And tell us why we should select you for this position.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there are a number of things. Number one, I've had a very broad array of work experience, all of which has made me learn absolutely new things. So in that regard, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm proud of that. I think I can master things quickly, as we've seen on City Council, and I would bring that to the controller's office. Additionally, I possess the integrity, the diligence, the diplomacy, and also the persistence necessary to do an excellent job in this position for the city and its stakeholders.
Thank you. Mr. Gree, would you ask your question of Mr. Glazier?
Well, you can't ask him the same question, because he can say the same thing. But I can ask a question, not the same one. Okay?
Slow down here. Go ahead. Are you going to ask the same question Mr. Glazier as you did?
No, I can't, because he didn't say the same thing, so I can ask a different question of what he said. Is that okay?
At this point, I would say, as president, it's not okay. Because but the guideline would be the level playing field, okay? And so a question you asked Orlinda should be the same question you asked Jeff.
Who didn't say the same thing? The thing is, I asked a question on what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind
About the
of
controller. Yours was about the controller's office.
Yeah, it could be about the controller's
Yeah,
office. Okay. I can ask a different question.
Ask about the controller's office.
Yes, it would certainly be about the controller's office, but, in regards to the, you said that you would like the controller to get involved in the budget process. And to what extent do you need Get involved in what way? What were you on?
Well, according to the charter, the controller's supposed to be involved, and I think that by developing capacity for some insight, perhaps that budget decisions can be better informed, not only on the administrative level, but hopefully for city council as well, because we all know how tough it is sitting up there when you're provided with two 4-inch thick books to wade through it, and I hope that I can make the office more of an asset to council.
To do what? I'm sorry. I just didn't get it. To do what?
To make better budget decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marini. Mr. Hendricks, your question?
Yes, I know this was, you did somewhat answer this question, but I'll ask it again. In your past positions, have you previously conducted any audits? And if you would expound a little bit on that.
Sure. Working for the Treasury, a little bit less than 2 years, I audited travel vouchers on a regular basis. I did some very large contracts for data processing, for telecommunications, security, and printing, all for the Department of Welfare. Interestingly enough, one of my, in travel vouchers, I noticed a series of irregularities, and I pointed them out to my superiors, and eventually the person whose vouchers they were, I think, faced federal charges for Medicare fraud, because he was in 2 places at once, and that can't happen. So, that's, you know, very good experience for this.
Thank you.
Ms. Mota?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Glacier, if you're given the opportunity to become the next city controller, what will be the first thing you will do or change as the new city controller?
As I said, I think that what I would like to do first is, in light of the responsibilities that the controller's office has, and in light of the limited personnel and budget, is assess where the time is spent, and to see from there, once I've made that assessment, then determine whether any changes may or may not need to be made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mota. Thank you, Mr. Glacier. That concludes Mr. Glacier's interview. Mr. Glacier, if you'd be seated. At this time, the interviews are complete. At this time, I'll open up to comments from the public. I ask that when the public comes up, they go up to this podium and they speak. Let's keep it in a respectful, civil manner. I will not tolerate any personal insults of either candidate. So whoever wants to come up and say something, public comments, and this is a public comment. This is not public questions. This is public comment. Anyone? Mr. Kaminsky, welcome.
Good evening, President O'Connell. First of all, I just want to commend the 2 candidates for the Controller's Office. It's a tough situation, and obviously something that no one wants to be in voluntarily, but I appreciate them taking their time to interview for the position. My comment is on looking at upon the city charter, the home rule charter. It says that they can't run until the next municipal election, which would be the 2017 election cycle. I would ask the council, I know that's not for tonight, you know, it's for another fight for another night, but that we would consider limiting that to 2 election cycles. In other words, a primary, and, you know, if somebody left office, obviously in January, that an election would be held this coming November in 2016. Obviously, that can't happen now, but going forward, I would like us to consider speeding up the process of replacing that office.
And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
and that's very fair, but according to the Lehigh County voter registration, let's take this for example. This is an opening, okay? This opening now will take effect for 2 years, and municipal election. And what you're saying is, I think we've all said, you know, no matter what happens, we cannot have a municipal election during the federal cycle.
Okay,
It's not allowed.
I was not aware. I
No,
apologize
know.
for-
I wasn't aware of it either until a couple months ago.
Okay.
But way back. But yeah, logically speaking, we would have a special election, like boom,
Right.
primary May, November we have. But municipal elections cannot be held during a federal cycle, and the year 2016 is a federal cycle.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome, Mr. Kaminsky. Mr. Erskine, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we heard two candidates for the office of city controller and elected position. I believe after the next year, council should look into making this an appointed position. Some cities and municipalities are going to appointed position. I think when I was on city council before, and as a city controller, I was looking into this, where council would appoint the controller, and they would be responsible to city council for what they should be doing when it comes to budgeting, auditing, investigations, and everything else. This would take it out of politics, and then that's what we have to look to take this position out of politics, Mr. Chairman. This way, whoever you appoint the 4-year term, and you review what he does during the 4 years, then you can change him as the auditor, or internal control auditor, or whatever you want to do. Because I was looking at this before. We have to take this position as city controller out of politics. And I think you can begin next year by changing the charter to do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erskine. Anyone else? Mr. Reynolds, welcome.
Good evening. In regards to the previous controller, I think the question that council needs to ask themselves is, what do you expect from the controller? Do you look at the work that the controller provides? And the reason I say this is because the last controller, most of her reports were process reviews, right? Looking at the list of reports that were submitted, I don't think any department was actually audited in the 4 years that she was there. So I think with whoever becomes a controller, you need to require that they actually do audits, that they actually look at how our departments are being run, how our money and our resources are being used, and that information is made public. With one of the points that Mr. Glacier gave about making these reports public, whether they be contracts or all of the audits, without having to ask for it. I don't think citizens should need to have to ask permission to look at their work, right? These reports are for us to understand how our city is being managed. And I would just like to add, if the public can give their vote, I would give my vote as a no vote on Mr. Glacier. And the only reason I would say that is because, currently he does sit on the Aggregate Pension Board, but those reports are not made available to the public. When I've gone to those meetings, I was told I couldn't get those papers. I submitted a right to know request, was denied a right to know request. And so, right now he can release those documents and they're not being released. So to expect him going forward to do so, I think, it begs the question, would he? I think we need to go in a different direction. We need to choose someone that will be independent of the administration, that will be independent of political loyalties, and that is only committed to the job and doing the work for the people of this city. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Holmes?
Good evening, council president, and council members. First of all, I'm Carrie Holmes, and resident of the city of Allentown. It's always a pleasure to stand before city council. At least we can say thank you, and we don't get an opportunity to do that. Let me just say thank you also for the interview process. It is very helpful that this opportunity is made public. I wanted to simply make the comment, as you said, we would have the opportunity simply reviewing, although I've known Ms. Linda for a number of years, and I came here specifically to support her. I think that her interview process, that she spoke very strongly, and her resume shows strongly her ability for audits, controls, and for the necessary skills. So my question, although I don't know Mr. Glacier personally, as I can, vouch for Mr. Linda as a person of integrity from my personal knowledge of her and relationship, is that I did notice in his resume, it's provided 3 references. And because of the current state of affairs, as it is now, and particularly as it pertains to this office, this position, it piques my interest to know that these are also individuals that have come into question in regards to the number of contributions and the level of contributions that they've made in comparison to the opportunities that they receive in the city. Now, fortunately for all of us, we do, as Mr. Linder said, stand on our own merit and our own contributions. So I was very glad to see the way that he has served the city, and that is, I'm sure, appreciated by all. However, again, not knowing Mr. Glazier personally, when I saw those items on his resume, it did give me reason for pause to know going forward that not only this position would be handled with integrity and with transparency, it does cause me concern to know that the very individuals, or some of the very individuals with which the community, we as constituents have been wondering, do they have these opportunities? These very individuals that he listed as his references, do they have opportunities available to them because they're contributing so much to political campaigns? But these are the very individuals that he's saying would vouch for him. And I'm sure he would have an opportunity if given to speak to that. But as a constituent, that is one of the first things that I noticed as I was reviewing the resumes. Finally, I will say that this points to integrity. From what I can see in Mr. Linda's resume solely, there is a very strong showing of ability and integrity. And finally, I will say in my final moments here that diversity, because this is an important opportunity for the city council to take a hold of a very skilled person and put them in a position. We also have the opportunity now to show some of the diversity in the city that we have been lacking, and that I know that City Council has been working very hard to balance. So integrity, ability, and diversity are my final comments as to the reason that I would encourage City Council to appoint Ms. Erlinda Aguilar to this position. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Anyone else? We'll go to Mr. Toth first, then we'll go to Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Toth.
President O'Connell, Council. I thought the presentations were excellent. They're very well-versed people in the process, and I commend them for that. I'll couch these comments that I have based on that I did not review the city charter in accord with controller position. But I believe that the chosen candidate should have some practical and some good experience in municipal procurement. I believe that's an important part of the process for the controller position, specifically in regards to municipal procurement code, as well as what we've recently enacted within the city. Also in regards to professional service and direct bid versus whether or not there's an RFP submitted for a project, potential project, or potential contract, or whether or not it's a direct bid for a low cost. I think Mr. Glazier pointed out that oversight is a key word, something that needs to be done within the controller's office. And I think that oversight of the procurement process is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toth. Mr. Hoffman? Good to see you. Name and address.
Sorry. Bill Huffman, 1518 West Pennsylvania Street. The person and the power is what I would urge you to think about. And the power is the more simple one. The responsibilities of the controller are set out in the city charter, but the controller really has limited powers to enforce or to force various departments of the city to cooperate with them. I've seen memos from previous controllers to previous mayors going on and on about why can't I talk to this person, why I can't talk to that person. So the controller operates very much with the goodwill of the administration, and sometimes that's a pretty dicey issue. What Mr. Hirschman talked about is in terms of restructuring is also certainly a possibility. So my message is I think the way it operates now, the controller really does not have the independent power that they should have. And that I think the city would benefit by having. The second one is a person that's, of course, much more difficult. Experience, degrees, and that's, that's all important. But you really don't know what you've got until you've got it. And that's difficult. You really don't know how independent they'll be until they're in. I was supported by the current mayor 100 years ago. And then we stopped talking to each other because we simply disagreed. So it's hard to say that because this person has this or because this person received that they will or will not be independent. It's very, very difficult. Good luck with that decision, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Just for the public's knowledge, Mr. Huffman was the controller for 4 years in the city of Allentown. Anyone else? Public comment? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Hi, City Council. My name is Jose Flores, and I have been on the east side of Allentown and a citizen of Allentown for almost the better part of 30 years. So I just feel as one of the young supporters of change and diversity, it just needs to happen. Whoever you guys choose, I feel more entitled that Arlinda has shown throughout her career in the city that she is willing to get the job done in a timely fashion and in a respectful manner, and always being transparent with everything and showing the utmost respect to everyone. I just want some change and everything. As someone is in the town and been here for so long, keeping the same thing going on and on obviously isn't working for us now in the city. So we have a little bit of change, even in a small budget or a small position as a controller, can make a big impact. And that's what I feel, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Flores.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Mr. McGuire, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President and council members. Thank you for this open process and the courtesy you've shown to the candidates. And
Just for the record, Mr. McGuire, we need your address. We know your name.
I thought it was just another pretty face. Dave McGuire, 223 North 19th Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania. As I frequently, perhaps not too frequently, come to the council and have been interested in city affairs. Also, in my jobs in the past, have had the excitement or failure of excitement in looking at resumes and hiring people. And we citizens are not addressing questions to the candidates who've produced extensive resumes here. I would simply like to make two observations, which is not to be construed as negative, but in an effort to have council at least aware of what one citizen knows. With respect to Ms. Aguilar, there's certainly a record of accomplishment, but it seems to end at 2010. There doesn't seem to be any activity afterward that's here for council's consideration. The other point is, as I mentioned briefly when I spoke to council last time, we citizens are looking for change, more openness, and clarity. This is an appointed position. Am I correct? Yes. But ultimately it becomes an elected position. I believe it's important for council to understand and for the public to know what is each candidate's position for the future. This is a 2-year appointment followed by a 2-year open election, open to anybody in the public. Ms. Aguilar has, with clarity, if I understood her correctly, said she's going to do her job now, and she's going to run in 2017, which is her right. And she also was very clear on how she intends to finance that, which I think is something we, the public, are interested in. Mr. Glazier, I may not have heard correctly, or maybe I didn't hear, but if he said something about his future intentions for 2017, I didn't hear it. And I just believe it should be clear for everybody. And last, again, as I said last time, we're looking for changes in city charter, and this process that you've engaged in can become part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Mr. McGuire, any other comments from the public?
No.
Mr. Trotner?
Yes, thank you. Robert Trotner, 1920 Whitehall Street, Allentown. I just want to talk about, I'm very concerned about the independence issue. I don't know which, I know Jeff Glazier, of course, because he's on the city council, but there are the references, some of one which are a little, I will say, but how can a person who's been tied at the hip, tied at the hip to the mayor, more so than anybody on city council, since he came on council, how can we expect that person to be independent? And I say independent is the most important thing I'm looking for. He got his money, his PAC money, that allowed him to run from Pulowski. He was appointed by Pulowski, or essentially recommended by Pulowski. He's been carrying the water for Pulowski, and I don't know how he can be independent. I'm just asking a question. I just don't know. I don't understand how that can be. And he said he was independent twice that he recalled on the school board, only twice. You remember he voted no, but he also remembered the entire school board voted no. So I'm just asking the question. I don't know how he can be independent with that $15,000 and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trotter. Any other comments from the public? Hello, Mr. Hahn.
Good evening, Council. Tom Hahn, 2016 East Highland Street. I'm going to address this to Council and whoever wants to pick up the ball and use these questions to get answers before a vote, whether it's you do it in private session or in front of the public. I would like someone to just give a little explanation on the questions. I had sent emails to all council members on issues that I didn't want to discuss in the public that should be discussed before it comes. So one of the questions is that why this person who is running didn't use his knowledge as a member of the finance committee to help council and the public when questions were asked. Because he's staying in his preference that now he's going to do something when he's claiming he had the knowledge to do it when he sat on council. And maybe find out at another meeting, postpone this for the vote, and find out why he didn't do it. When we would ask questions of him on council about finance, he used our questions to go to the administration to get the answers. And that was upsetting, based on all the knowledge that he said he has. The question of what Julio asked was, what was a reflection of what did happen? So it's interesting that Julio was looking back over all the situations and wondering why we didn't get help. what did he do to help the controller and the public with the knowledge sitting on council and going through all the triumph or discussion, whatever you want to call it, from the start to the finish? So the past history shows what to expect in the future. The lion, or should I say the tiger, moves from spot to spot but never loses his spot. The conflict of the conflict of interest issue is still open. That's it. I just want to say council has to get either answers somewhere before the vote. So if you have a positive thing about voting for someone else, then this is a closed book. If not, then you can't vote until all these questions become public knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I've been advised by our solicitor that City Council needs to hold an executive session before we come back. So we will break for an executive session and we will return as soon as possible. Thank you.